Hello again, welcome back. How are you? Did you miss us? This was our first show on Gaza. Palestine is still the issue. And discussing the role with us today is wonderful for her to join us, actually. Sheila Coleman, Hillsborough Justice Campaigner, and Curtis Daly has magically reappeared as well.
I haven't left, actually.
We were due to be joined by a Palestinian artist for this. Unfortunately, they were taken ill. So it's enormous thanks to Sheila for stepping in at the last minute, literally last night on the phone for please come in. And she's done so. So I'm very, very, very grateful for that. We may be joined presently by Alma Shamali, a Palestinian contributing writer for The Canary. I'm not sure what the connection is yet, but he's dialing in from Oman. So, well, if he joins us, great. If not, we shall persevere. Anyway, we've now sort of reached a point with regards to this where famine has been officially declared, of course, a famine that the UN says is very much man-made. I think we've all seen with our eyes and ears, it very much is man-made. From social media, even mainstream media is finding it even increasingly more difficult to sort of hide it and not say that, you know, not be able to deny it any longer. But what does that tell us about Israel's strategy and about the failure of international community to step in and stop it? Why is there still, after nearly 2 years of this, is there still no solidarity, it seems, from where it's needed? Sheila, can I come to you on that first?
Yeah, I just think what it says is the power of Israel and the people behind it, because what we're witnessing is something that is just beyond anything I think we could imagine in this day and age. And what really scares me is the normalising of it, that we're watching daily what is going on. And now people have a man-made famine, a genocide, and still people are reading headlines, provocative headlines. The language used is minimising what is really going on. So you have to go, well, who's behind that? And, you know, if we're looking at us, we have to say, well, you know, what's our government doing about it? And I think we're all in agreement that we're deeply ashamed. I'm actually ashamed to have anything to do with this country now. That's how I feel. I don't want to be linked to it. I don't want to be named. And the fact that just down the road at the conference, we have people being nice to one another, you know, sort of carrying on what's going on, making promises, whatever. When all this is going on, says, well, why is that the case? Because it's not good publicity, and you have to go, well, who's behind it? And it's about power, which extends, you know, beyond Israel to America, to Britain and parts of Europe. Although I have to say, you know, countries in Europe have been better than our country, Spain, for example. And now we have them. Now we have, you know, sort of protecting the flotilla. We need to hang our heads in shame over the whole thing. But I think what it boils down to is power and corruption and greed.
I always think with that flotilla, we've got that RAF base on Cyprus, RAF Akrotiri. Yeah. Any time there's been issues with that before, I mean, the Madeleine that we saw previously was British flagged. There's 3 of these vessels in this flotilla now are British flagged. Why is there no British escort? That's sovereign territory now. Where is it?
And, you know, you can't help but fear for the people, because we are, at one time they'd gone, we won't let anything happen to them. But we're living in time now where they would do something. They would do something. I've got friends on it. There are people who are not safe. Yeah. And, you know, they're so courageous. Yeah, absolutely. What they're going in. And people, you know, and last time they're going, oh, it's publicity, it's this, it's that. Would you do it? Would you want to do it unless you were prepared
they're risking their lives.
Yes,
we were due to have Tig Hickey come on here. Irish comedian Tig was due to come on. Of course, they're still sailing, still involved. So our thoughts are out there with Tig, whereas solidarity is, all the solidarity from your show is out there with him. Curtis, could I bring you in on that question?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, power is really important here. Soft and hard power when it comes to influencing British foreign policy, but not just Britain. To speak about the UK, though, I mean, we've exported our foreign policy to Washington. They call the shots, right? And we will never delineate from them. Especially when you see Keir Starmer sort of really sucking up to Trump. He's not going to delineate on that. But obviously you've got worldwide a global cowardice in what is happening. You talk about starvation and famine. The UN also just come out officially and said it's a genocide. And of course, for us who've been paying attention, we've known it's a genocide for a long time. This is the most live stream genocide. Right? Your average person who's now woken up to this issue, probably since the 7th of October, because many people were not clued in of the history of the conflict, have woken up to it. But we have journalists, we have politicians that are providing cover for Israel. And I mean, I would say, how do these people sleep at night? But I think they sleep perfectly well because I don't think they give a damn.
Soulless.
It's soulless. It's disgusting. And of course, you're right that some European nations are coming out and speaking out against this. Spain, for example. But you're never going to see the United Kingdom come against this. One, because it's the establishment foreign policy. The fact that Israel was created from the Balfour Declaration, it's pretty much a British instilled institutional settler colonial state. It's very much part of British history. And of course, when it comes to the USA, again, we follow their foreign policy. These people are going to say they were always against it, right?
But they're so out of step with public opinion, though. Of course, we've got the protests after protest after protest we've seen in this country the last 2 years. I'm minded to think of Italy having sent those 2 vessels now. But that's after they've had dock workers in Ravenna and Genoa kicking off royally. They've had them in Piraeus in Greece as well. And they've also now sent a vessel,
well,
I believe.
I think that is a really important point because, yes, you see people on the streets now over Palestine and what's happening, but it hasn't always been the case. And I can't help but think that had the unions been a bit more proactive, this would have been happening sooner in this country because right across the board, 1 or 2 exceptions, I don't think the unions have been very good at all. In fact, being told not to go on this demonstration and not to support this. It's not what I joined a trade union for or work for one for.
That's right. No, I totally agree. And the unions will get theirs at some point during the proceedings, aren't
and
they?
to still be affiliated to the Labour Party. When you've got leverage and that's your expertise within the workplace, then bloody use it with the government over withdrawing it or threatening to withdraw it.
But the unions have always been political, right? I mean, a lot of people say, no, they just want to focus on workplace stuff. They've always been political. I know you're saying that across Europe.
Yeah.
But we need to have some kind of power back. Telling our politicians, you cannot do this. They are not listening. We need to tell them, we're not asking for this, we're telling you. And it would be good to see unions stand in solidarity and use that power.
But I think the only way you do that is go, because if you don't, these are the consequences. Because, it's like in life, that you hit people where it hurts. And sadly, within a capitalist society, that's with money. So we're withdrawing our fund and our support. People start to think
Why do you think governments are so resistant to their public's opinion? Is it all just about Washington, or is there more to it?
I think it's seen as Palestine and support for Palestine traditionally has been seen as edgy and linked with terrorism because ignorance rules. And I think you never overestimate the knowledge that people have in terms of what is going on. People, the papers people read, the headlines, and it's easier to just read the headlines than to look behind it or do a little bit of digging yourself. How many people go back to the Balfour Declaration? But they should, because we have a big role to play in that, as you see. And I think that's part of the problem.
We're compounding our own responsibility in this story, aren't we?
Yeah.
But the violence we're seeing isn't limited to Gaza, of course. It's very easy to focus on Gaza because obviously you've got the flotilla. It's obviously where the genocide is actually happening. But you've got settlers taking over the West Bank as well. Displacement quite openly. They are openly just challenging Palestinians in the street, just taking their homes, taking their land, burning olive trees, which is just sacrosanct. How can we better get people to understand that this is an all-encompassing Palestinian issue, and it's not just all about Gaza, but we've got to think about the West Bank as well?
I think, I think knowledge is power. It is about educating people, but how do you do it? And something I thought of after last night with people being arrested was that largely, when we're on the Palestine march here in Liverpool, you'll see people and you will get the support from the sides, from people outside shops, whatever, but they can't join in. And I think that's my experience of most things. People are not joiners in. They'll watch and even support, but there's a self-consciousness. And I think we overcome it to some extent over many years over Hillsborough, but that wasn't like overnight. That was a long, long battle before it was like, hey, this is about our city. And so it's been a bit like that with Palestine, with more people coming when they see the humanitarian aspect of it and they overcome the other thing. But it's about, I think, them identifying with people on the march or people getting arrested. So last night, for example, one of the people arrested, and I won't say his name because that's for him to say, and who is a screenwriter and a playwright and comes from kind of traditionally an impoverished area on the outskirts of Liverpool. And he was arrested and he kind of said this kind of poem, or he sang before as they were carting him off. And I thought, even just from my own messages today, people say, oh, did you see so-and-so get arrested last night? Now, he's well respected as someone from an area, just a regular guy who happens to have the talent to write things, like he writes a Coronation Street, etc. Those sorts of things change it, because I think your average person who wouldn't be perceived as political go, well, hang on a minute. He's putting himself on the line there. I have a drink with him down the pub or something. And I think that's, I'm just kind of saying it from an outsider's point of view. And I don't mind doing that. And I kind of, as people who know me, I always prefer being on the outside because it gives me a freedom. And I'm not bound by, I have been bound in the past, but I'm certainly not bound now. And I think it's important the more people see, and certainly the old people, getting arrested, it becomes, if it wasn't so serious, it's a joke.
Yeah. And,
I do wonder what the police really think of it when so many of them are deployed to kind of whisk, someone like me.
It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are they just following orders? Can they not think for themselves? I mean, as far as I'm aware, they're allowed to refuse a poor order. Yeah. But of course, there's a law in place and they must uphold the law.
Well, where's their union? You see, that's another point. Let their union get involved because it's a powerful union. Someone should be putting motions in there and rushing them through. Well,
yeah, I totally agree. The power of the unions is huge. If only they would deploy it.
Yeah.
Curtis?
I mean, I first want to say, actually, because obviously before this segment we were talking about the rise of the far right, and we were talking about the hundreds of thousands of people that marched, right? That is very worrying. But there are millions of people in this country that protest in support of Palestine. There are more people out there who are waking up to this. And I think it's really interesting what you're saying about people of prominence coming out of this. Celebrities are doing it.
Yeah.
And social change often happens when it becomes a cultural thing. The political establishment want to try and say, these are just a bunch of small radicals, sectarian politics, and let's be honest, the media pundits say they're just Hamas supporters, right? Yeah. That's what they want to do. But when there's a culture change, when you are seeing people in the media, you're seeing celebrities, your everyday person saying what is happening is disgusting, is a very real threat for those that want to uphold the existing foreign policy order. And that is why you're seeing hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets. This isn't going to go back in the box. People aren't going to suddenly change their minds.
No.
It is, but it's, to go sort of address your original question, why are the governments ignoring this? Are they out of touch? I no longer believe they're out of touch. They understand people's public sentiment. Yes. They understand it. They just refuse to do it because I think there has been a change, and this is not just to do with Palestine, but with everything. There seems to be a change now where governments pretended to want to do the right thing or do the will of the people. Now they've realised they don't care about what people think. We can get away with it anyway.
Well, what does that actually say about them now then? What does it say about our government when they treat protest as a greater threat than genocide?
Well, I think the role of our current state apparatus and many states globally is about protecting the existing power structures, is protecting themselves. Now, a genocide, if you're on the Zionist side, the pro-Israel side, or Washington side, your power isn't, threatened. But ordinary people taken to the streets, that threatens their power. So, of course, if you are, and I think someone like Keir Starmer is an authoritarian, I truly believe that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the Labour Party is. They're going to look at people protesting them as a threat because they don't want to give their own power.
Irrespective of what they're protesting about. Yeah,
Quite right.
No,
quite right.
I think that is a really good point, and I just think that the whole they're not. You said, you know, how do they sleep at night? Well, we do know, because they don't think like us, and that's the thing. Because you can't help but be shocked by it. You can't help but go. You know, you watch someone like Lisa Nandy, and you know, sort of when she says, and you know. They're schooled in what to say. There's very little independent thought in most of them, if you look at it. And you see now, it's like the to replace Angela Rayner's position. What a choice! What a choice!
No, it's
you've
not a
got.
choice, is it? It's
No,
a choice between two
of course.
different two
Exactly.
identical
Yes,
voting
yeah.
records, essentially.
And maybe one slightly got a little bit more edge than the other one, without saying who. You know, I can think of it easily. I haven't been on a panel with them once, but that's the whole thing. It's like they don't care, but you have to kind of go, well, it's bigger than this, but there are so many out now, but imagine what it could have been like, and the lives that could have been saved if trade unions had been proactive on this.
But as much as the Starmer government is where it's at, as much as it's out of step with the general public, it's also out of step with international law, because
Yes,
as
yeah.
Curtis alluded to, the UN have identified it as
Yeah.
a genocide now. The ICJ have made interim provisional rulings. The ICC have issued arrest warrants, and yet what's actually changed on the ground as a result of that? Netanyahu was just flown to the US again. I mean, he did a little loop around Spain and to avoid French and Spanish airspace
Yes,
this
yeah.
time. Okay, that makes for a pretty line on a map, but he's still in the US. He's still got the UN. Yes, delegates walked out, but he's still got to go there. He's still got to say his thing. What does this tell us about the state of international law today as a result?
I think it says there's a power elite that operates outside of those organisations. There has to be, because otherwise it would count for something. But where do we go from here? Because when you're in a situation where there are these, you know, warrants out for Netanyahu and people are breaching international law, quite blasé and brazen. Who's protecting them? Because they're being protected. You know, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you have to see it. There are nameless and faceless people controlling things. And I find that really scary, but I think so, but I never underestimate the power of people. And as you say, the sheer numbers now and the sheer determination of people. I mean, I saw people, I wasn't there last night, but I saw people, you know, on YouTube, on Facebook and stuff being arrested. I mean, I know these people. I know what good people they are. And the idea, they wouldn't break laws. It's, you know, they just kind of plod along. Like, that's how much it means. And when the government is not seeing that.
The optics are so damaging, aren't they? I mean, all these police everywhere,
Yes, yeah.
and they're arresting pensioners,
Yes,
and they're
yeah.
arresting disabled,
Yes,
blind
yeah.
people in
And
wheelchairs. I mean,
they're arresting good Jewish people. Last night, I know people who were arrested who were, you know, who have been the backbone of Palestinian solidarity campaigns.
and I think so many of them come out because they realise that what Israel is doing is
Yes.
putting them in more danger
Yes,
for their faith
yes, yeah,
than
yeah.
protecting them
Yeah,
as the so-called Jewish state says it would.
Yeah, yeah.
Curtis? Well, I mean, so you're absolutely right. What we've seen is a rise of anti-Semitism, but part of that is what Israel was doing. And there are anti-Zionist Jewish people who want to stand in solidarity with Palestinians, and they themselves are being attacked. Institutionally, from, again, the Labour Party are attacking these kinds of people, kicking them out of the party because they don't have the correct opinion. And it's really, really racist. It's disgusting. And a lot of people who push the pro-Israel line do not care about anti-Semitism. Think about the ADL, who say there's been a huge spike in anti-Semitism, but they're including in that criticisms of Israel. They're creating a fear for Jewish people when in actuality, part of that is because it's simply criticism of Israel.
But this, I think we have to go back there. I think you're spot on what you say. But as someone who only joined the Labour Party to vote for Jeremy Corbyn, I I had a struggle getting in, then I got in, and then and actively and openly supported Jeremy Corbyn, shared platforms with him, was a big supporter, as so many of us were. You know, you think you were out on the knocker, you were in Wales, you were everywhere, you know, geeing up support. And you have to go back to that and what was working in the background, and we've seen that with the Morgan McSweeney stuff recently. And as soon as Starmer got in, I wasn't even suspended. I was just expelled, and I have it in writing, you know, that under the definition of I am racist and anti-Semitic. And, you know, my own family were going crazy with me, you know, you got to fight it, you got to fight it. I'm long enough in the tooth to know what's the point in fighting when you're not on an even playing field.
No,
There's ways you can fight it, but it mightn't be through legal routes, you know. And of course, like many people now, I wear it as a badge of honour. When someone wants to shove you out the way so soon. And the idea of being identified and associated with it, you know, fills me with horror. Yeah. But yeah, I think you have to go back to that, because what they were doing were knocking people out the way even then, weren't they? You know, people who, and the whole Corbyn thing was seen in that light, the whole anti-Semitic thing, which being quite close to us, I thought was ridiculous, quite frankly, you know.
So your real crime was that you were left wing.
That's a real crime, yes.
That was the excuse, that was the cover.
That's
Weaponised,
right, yes, yeah.
Weaponised a form of racism.
Yeah.
To purge the
I mean,
we
Diane Abbott could attest to that with the hierarchy of racism in that too. I mean,
yes,
the appalling racism, I wouldn't say she receives because it continues to happen, is a perfect example of how racism is seen, not just inside the Labour Party, but institutionally in the media.
Yeah.
You know, you see really quite nasty figures who are suddenly concerned about anti-Semitism, but they're discussing racism about everything else. I'm thinking, is it because you're concerned about... No, it's not, because they want to push the idea that basically you have to support Israel or you're an anti-Semite.
And it was important to split it away from the racism tag.
Yeah.
It was important to have that for those people. Yeah.
Right, we're coming up to getting near the end of this segment. So I think we've covered a few topics here now on what people feel they can do to try and fight back against this. And so for people who are feeling sort of powerless right now, especially in light of what they've seen on their TV screens, what happened in Liverpool just yesterday, as we know, what do you think people right now can do to, you know, beyond the marching, beyond the sitting with a placard, arguably, to stop this genocide, stop this government from backing it effectively by default, and to prevent future ones, frankly, because we said never again before, yet it's happening again now. So what's to stop it happening again somewhere else in the future?
I think that you... It is that thing of keep talking about it, and every time I've spoken to a Palestinian, they have said to me that please keep talking about it. And I think we can all do that. We can do it in such little ways, by sending a tweet to someone, by sending something you've seen on Facebook that people have put on about information that you won't find in the regular daily papers. You keep talking about it. You keep it in people's faces, and that's why the BDS campaign is so important, because that is in people's faces, and it is the thing of, you know, excuse me, is this from Israel? And it's actually trying to get over your own self-conscious. I mean, I've always got like a wad of like little stickers to go on all the avocados and, you know, figs and stuff. And really, and I know that other people do it better than us. And, you know, I have like good friends around Derry and Belfast, and in Derry particularly, they're so proactive in what they're doing. Home bargains, I mean, that's something worth mentioning, because home and bargains, obviously, home and bargains, because I'm a Scouser. Home bargains, as it's called now, originated in Liverpool. Liverpool man, one of the most richest men in the country now, still supplies, still sells a lot of products, baby wipes, etc., that are from Israel. In Derry and Belfast, people are going into home bargains, and they are getting the trolleys and filling the trolleys up like they're buying it all, and then they'll just stop. I mean, we've seen it with other things as well, but then they'll go, excuse me, can we have your attention? And drawing it. I haven't seen that in Liverpool at all, and I kind of would like to play that a bit differently. I mean, I'd like to appeal to the owner of Home and Bargains and say he is really missing a trick here in terms of capitalism and making money, because he could do. They play the best music. If you want to go into a shop and have a little dance around, Home and Bargains play the best music. Seriously.
Nobody wants to see my dad dancing.
No.
We've got about a minute left, so can I just give 1 minute to Curtis to come on my question as well?
Yeah, very briefly. I think it's really important, again, to jump on what you said, it's about having the everyday conversations. Of course, yes, going to marches and speaking to people that who are already politically aware is important. You have to keep doing it. But I think it's really important to speak to those who aren't politically active or aware. Everyday conversations.
Yes.
Again, it's about the culture change. We do have activists on the ground. We do have people turning up to marches, but I think it's really important to those who aren't really engaged. And that is working, by the way. I mean, I've had many conversations with people who aren't that political, but they're saying what is happening in Gaza is disgusting, from people from all political persuasions as well. So it's the everyday conversations with people, your friends and your family, who don't think that they're interested in politics. Speak about this. That's all we can really do. But at the end of the day, it's people power.
Yeah.
We're all going to do our own thing. One day, hopefully, we can prevail.
Yeah. I've got to stop you there, unfortunately, Curtis. Thank you so much to Curtis Daly, again, from Turn Left, absolute legend. Thank you so much to the epic legend that very much is Sheila Coleman. Thank you so much for coming in at such short notice as well. This is the end of the first show on Gaza. There will be another one where I will be presenting again. I will be joined hopefully by Asa Winstanley of Electronic Intifada and John McAvoy of Declassified UK. So 2 heavyweight journalists, proper ones. Next up is Tina Becker talking capitalist economics, and I will be back a bit later talking about migration. See you later.